Hello, I'm Carl Ruckerson of the Carl Ruckerson Tonight Show. If you didn't think the city could get any more crazy, well, then you'd be wrong. Any fool paying attention to the news these past couple of days will have made note of the attack on the local downtown area by not people, not rioters, not protesters, but three adult Bornean orangutans. The three males, ranging from ages 7 to 14, escaped their enclosure at the local zoo and took quick note of the many food businesses in the local area and simply helped themselves all throughout the night. It wasn't until 7 hours and 42 minutes after their escape that police finally caught on and apprehended the apes, bringing them back into the enclosure. One of the most hit locations is a local bakery ran by a viewer, Rick. Rick, tell us what happened that night.
First of all, Carl, thank you for having me on the show tonight. Yes, I'd like to touch on the fact that not just me, but many other local businesses, very small local businesses around me, have been affected by this tragedy that took place the other night. The fact that so much food was gone in the matter of seconds made us lose thousands of dollars in ingredients, food, and altogether everything in the shop was just gone. It was a tragedy in itself. But before I continue on, I'd like to touch on the fact that, Carl, you have, and I mean you have, extremely kissable lips, very, very plump and juicy, what I've seen so far when you've talked in the beginning of this interview. Has anybody ever commented on how kissable you look on the show before?
Excuse me, Rick? No, nobody's ever made a comment about how plumpy my lips look.
That surprises me very much. I don't mean to be rude, obviously. You just seem to be a very kissable person, and I, myself, would like to take part in doing the smoochies, is what they like to call it nowadays, with yourself. Would that be anywhere plausible on the table? Is that something that you would be willing to do with myself?
Rick, let's get down to the meat and potatoes of things here. The issue isn't the Bornean orangutans. They're a loved member of the zoo community. The big issue is the city's incapability to handle a situation like this. I mean, it took nearly 8 hours for police and...
If I may interrupt.
Go ahead, Rick.
Sorry, I understand that this topic is very drastic, and as myself, I feel the dread from all of this, and since I'm so down in the dumps lately because of all of this, I don't mean just be selfish, but the fact that you did not acknowledge my last comments has hit me a little harder than even the events that have happened to me recently. Is there any reasoning to me that you wouldn't want to do the smoochies with me?
Rick, I didn't acknowledge your last comment because I found it highly inappropriate to be openly discussed on a live television show. I believe you are aware that I have a lovely wife, 2 lovely children, a lovely home, and I live in a lovely but flawed city. The fact that you would offer to me to commit adultery openly on my own television show, I personally find insulting.
I'm aware of that, and I see that from your facial expressions. I also see it through your lips as they get more salivaty, if that's the correct word. You salivate more when you get mad, and I've noticed that more than anything you've just said in the past 30 seconds. So I'm going to pretend that you didn't say anything and go back to the same question that I asked before. Would you want to commit, as you put it, adultery with me and do the smoochies with your very plump and my very plump lips? I think that's a very normal question, and I'm surprised nobody else on the show has ever asked that. So,
Rick, you would need to provide to me some very potent incentives in order for me to even consider something like that.
Well, an incentive that I have at the moment is due to the recent tragic events that have happened to my small business. I have gotten a fat insurance check worth amount of $35,000, which would have your name on it if you met me at a local pizza place known as Donati's, and on Eckers Lane, if I'm not mistaken. And if you met me behind that shop with that check that I have in my hand behind that dumpster, and you and I could engage in some very sensual smoochies with your plump lips, again, as I like to regard.
Rick, are you now attempting for me to commit a act of prostitution for $35,000 so that you can kiss me? Is that correct?
Well, I wouldn't put it in those words, but if you would like to put it in that form of prostitution, I guess if you want to name it like that and define it as that way, sure. I would not put it that way, as if it's just a little gift, as I like to call it, a little incentive to come and give me the smoochies behind this very kissable spot at 11:30 tonight. What do you say?
Well, that Donati's dumpster is a very kiss-worthy location, and it is 11:30 right now. Do you think you could meet me there in about 5 minutes from the studio?
Perfect. That's perfect for me. I think that's an ideal time. Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in tonight. I have been Carl Ruckerson. Thank you for coming. I will see you all tomorrow.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's it.
That's the one.
That's the one.
All right, let me just